Welcome to this week's masterclass, you guys, with Bill Pipes in the house. And let's get going. So, Bill, take it away.
Yeah, first of all, thank you guys for being able to make the pivot. Obviously, you guys know that, I travel a whole bunch and last week my flight got moved and rearranged and made it impossible for me to actually be on the call unless I'm in the air. I'm so excited about the conversation that I get to have with you guys here today. So this is, I look at, if you think about the success that we have in life, so much of it is based upon people pouring into you. Would you guys agree with me on that? Like mentors or other agents or, parents, whatever. When I look at the reason of, or the one of the reasons why I would say we have had the success, or I've had the privilege of having the success that I've had in my life, is because I remember one time Mike Ferry, probably my biggest mentor, which by the way, if you guys get a chance sometime today, just pause in your day. Send some healing energy and some love Mike Ferry's way. I'm not sure how many of you guys know this. They just announced this a couple of days ago, but he does have prostate cancer. Fortunately, at least what they're telling us is it's not aggressive. It hasn't spread. But that guy, whether you like him or not, I believe single-handedly has had the greatest impact on the real estate space of reminding people of what it is to be a professional, even though he's sort of an asshole sometimes. But you gotta, like it was appropriate for the time that it was. But if you could send him some healing, just hold him in your mind, send him some healing energy, some love, some appreciation, some gratitude. That energy will go a long, long way. But I've had some of the best mentors, right? And Mike Ferry said to me one time, he said, Bill, you are smart enough to show up, be stupid enough to listen. Right. And I remember that to this day, looked straight at me. Right. And I think I was about 24 years old at the time. I'm 53. So I met Mike Ferry at 21 years old. And I've continued to keep that mantra, that attitude of if someone is producing something more than me in life, I'm going to listen. Does that make sense? Now, I think it's so, Bob, it's so critical to also take the opposite side because it seems like everyone wants to give advice, right, guys? You know what I mean? Like everybody out there, Alicia, has like some input that they want to give you. And one of the rules that I have is that if you're not producing more than me in an area, I'm simply not going to listen to you. You know what I mean? And if you don't have a great relationship, I'm not going to listen to you on relationships, right? Like fortunately, Mike Ferry never gave me advice on relationships and probably wouldn't have listened to him anyway because he's been married 4 times. You know what I mean? So unless it was how to cycle through multiple relationships. I've had some of the best mentors, whether they be coaches. I had the chance to obviously be side by side with Mike Ferry in some very formative years of my life in my early 20s. I had the chance to be able to work side by side with Matthew Ferry, right, who had a substantial impact on me in terms of my focus on spirit and energy, right. I got the chance to work side by side with Gary Keller for years, right, for a couple of years when Bold was launching and Diana Kokoska. I had a woman by the name, and I'm going to share with you, get through as many of these 10 as I possibly can. But it's just, I always said, what am I going to grab from this person? But it isn't just what am I going to grab, right? And this is the thing about being able to have mentors or mentorship. And I want you to just write this down, if you would, please, is that it's a take, but you also have to give. Does that make sense? Okay. Like if you want to surround yourself with wonderful people that are going to contribute to you, then you got to be looking at how, Kristen, how can I give back to this person as well too? And a lot of times giving back is just the acknowledgement of the incredible intelligence that they have, right? Or the acumen, the business acumen or life acumen that they're bestowing upon you at that point. And so, but by listening to great mentors, coaches, etc., you get to truncate the growth curve. Does that make sense, guys? You get the opportunity to be able to actually just sort of say, okay, cool. I know I'm going to get there, Nino, but this is going to allow me to get there faster. Right. And that's really and to make fewer mistakes because you get to put yourself on the shoulders of the giants, the men and the women that have already been there, and you don't have to step in the same puddles and get your shoes dirty and wet. Okay. So I've got 10 things. And Nazar and I were talking about this. I went, God, this is great because it forced me to codify some of the biggest lessons that I've had in my life and where they came from. And the first one does come from Mike Ferry, right? And he always said this: success comes down to three things. Success, and I would ask you, write these down, Nazar. They look like this. I'm on the road, so until I get home tomorrow at 4 o'clock, they won't be typed up. But once they get typed up, then we will send it over to you guys. I'll send it to Nazar, and he can send it out to all of you. So if for some reason we don't get through all 10 of them, you'll get the rest of them, in the document itself. But he said success comes down, but I would want you to write this down. Comes down to three things. Okay, three simple words: attitude, approach, and expectation. Attitude, approach, and expectation. That if you want to have a high level of success in anything that you do, it starts with the attitude you have about it, right? Right? Like, what is your mindset? What are you doing to work on it? What are you doing to strengthen that on a daily basis? Now, I remember Mike Ferry saying something to me. He goes, a long time ago, I recognized I may not be the smartest. I may not be the quickest. I may not be all of these other things. He goes, but I can out discipline and out attitude anybody. Right. And because it really all starts with that: the attitude you have about prospecting, the attitude you have about building a team, the attitude that you have, when you're going on a listing presentation. All of that is going to show up in the actions that you take. The second is approach. And approach, to next to it, write down, you have to be a highly skilled agent to produce great results. There's just no denying it, right, guys? Like, you have to take the time to build the skills, to know what to say, to be able to effectively be a great salesperson. I used to love the productivity school that Matthew and myself and Tom used to lead when we were all over at Mike Ferry, right? And we used to have people stand up and point at themselves like this. Some of you may remember this, and put a big smile on their face and say, I'm a great salesperson. You have a room of 500 people screaming, I'm a great salesperson, right? And it was to remind us that we're a salesperson first, a salesperson second, and a salesperson third. Does that make sense, guys? That what we do, regardless of where you are, if you're a leader, you're selling your team on the processes and the systems of the team and doing the work every single day. Make sense, guys? Okay. Like, if you're a solo agent, you're obviously selling buyers and sellers on working with you. You're selling them on the market, right? It's a consistent sales job. And John, you have to have the skills to be able to do that. And that's something that you work on every single day. Last night, I've gone back in. I'm not sure how many of you guys have ever watched the Netflix series called The Last Dance. If you have not watched it, oh my gosh, guys, I'm a big 1990s basketball fan, late 80s, 90s. I think, I don't enjoy watching LaFlop and some of the other players now. I think they're like pretty dang entitled, and I think they would get their lunch handed to them. But in the 1990s, but I watched Michael Jordan, and The Last Dance is about the 1990s Chicago Bulls. The level of intensity that these guys had, that Jordan had, to build the skills necessary, is what made him great. Does that make sense? Like, it wasn't that he was naturally more gifted and talented, but he had the right attitude. He had this attitude of, we are going to win. He had the right approach. He was willing to actually outwork everyone else. And then last is expectation, right? Expectation, right? That you have to expect, right, that you are going to win. You have to expect that if you have the right attitude, the right approach, that you're going to take a lot of listings, that you're going to get people under contract. You have to also have an appropriate expectation that's just going to take time. Does that make sense, guys? Like, like things, Justin, just take time. And I think in real estate, in the world that we live in today, it's a fast fix, like, hey, I don't like where my weight is. I'm going to go do a shot. I don't like where my relationship is. I'm going to scroll through social media and find another one. Like, it's a quick fix, move to the next type of thing. Things just take time. Number two, second thing I learned, and this is again something I learned from two of my mentors. One of them is Mike Ferry. The other one is a gentleman by the name of Dan Pena. Now, I will warn you something. Dan Pena is called the $1 trillion man. If you ever watch any of his stuff, if you've ever listened to David Goggins, right, and listen to how David Goggins curses, Dan Pena makes David Goggins look like an altar boy, right? So I just want to preface that in terms of the language, which is very, very, very spicy, right? Latino man that lives now in London that grew up in South Central Los Angeles, right? Worth $1 trillion. Like he's generated over $1 trillion worth of revenue in his life. So here is point number two. It's a quote. How badly do you want it? And what sacrifice are you willing to make? How badly do you want it? And what sacrifice? And I want you to underline the word sacrifice. Sacrifice. Because Chuck, here, by the way, Chuck, you've been crushing it, bro, with your videos. I just want you to know, I see you, bro. I see you indexing, and I know the work that's going into that. And I know that that's a sacrifice as well, too. You know what I mean? That you have to make every single day to be able to put the content out. See, a lot of people, Joan, get really excited about the idea of, you guys know, my moniker is I make millionaires. That's what I do. You know what I mean? I don't make them. I help people get there. But like we got 53 of them. We got about 8 or 9 of them that are teed off for this year, right? So like I jokingly go, people go, what do you do? I go, I make millionaires. And they're like, what do you mean? I go, in space of real estate, right? I'm the person that's known to be able within 24 to 36 months to get someone up to $1 million worth of production if they surrender to the system. That's a really exciting thing to think about, $1 million. But here's the key thing, okay? You've got to embrace that there is the bigger the goal, the greater the sacrifice is that you've got to be willing to make. The bigger the goal is, the greater the sacrifice is. I'm staying at the Doubletree Hotel right now and getting ready to go speak at the Mindset Summit here. As soon as I get done, my car picks me up and drives me over, and I'm on the stage at 11:15, right? And so I wasn't going to miss today's call. Like, you guys move me around. I am here today. So I checked in. And has anyone ever stayed at the Doubletree before? What do they give you? What do they offer you when you check in? Cookies. Yeah, the cookies. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Chuck. After the win and me being picked up in the Rolls Royce, right? I'm like here at the Doubletree. This is the life, the sexy life of being on the road. That's exactly correct. So the lady says, "Do you want 2 cookies?" I said, "No." She goes, "Are you sure they're really good?" I'm like, "No." Right? Why? Because I'm 187 pounds. I'm the lightest that I've actually been since I've actually was in high school, since I was 18 years old, right? I have to sacrifice in my choices to be able to actually hit the goals that I want to make. If you want to earn $1 million, earn 500, you're going to have to sacrifice certain things, right? Sacrifice staying up late, sacrifice, maybe going out and partying, sacrifice certain time that you spend with family instead, right? There's a sacrifice. And in fact, you're going to find that all the success that you have earned is on the shoulders of the sacrifices you're willing to make. Does that make sense, guys? All the success that you have ever earned is on the shoulders of the sacrifices that you're willing to make. Okay, number 3, I already gave it to you. Number 3 is everything takes longer than you expect. That's the hardest. That, like Christine, hardest pill to swallow. We want it right now. But honestly, Doug, it's like cooking a brisket, man. You know what I mean? That shit takes long. It takes time. You cannot rush it, right? It's got to sit there. It's got to marinate. It's got like we want it so quickly. And in fact, here's something to think about. I will tell you, and this is not something I've learned from my mentors. It's something I've experienced. The biggest mistakes I've made is when I've gotten impatient. The biggest mistakes I've made in life is when I've gotten impatient with the process and I stopped trusting the process, start trying to move things around, right? Start making new decisions, start doubting the system, right? Like, you just have to recognize things take longer than they expect. How many of you guys have ever gone on I want to get in shape, I want to lose weight, I want to do whatever type of program, and you're like, I'm working, I'm not seeing the results. I'm working, I'm not seeing the results. Or hey, I have no business. I'm going to start prospecting. I'm working. Where's my leads? I'm working. Where's my money, etc. Right? We are in an instant gratification society. So you got to recognize it's probably 40 or 50% because more time than what you expect. Okay. And if you embrace that, it doesn't mean don't have urgency in your actions. It just means have patience and trust that the results are going to show up if you're following the process. Does that make sense, guys? It just takes longer. Number 4. I got this from John Cheplack. And even though I only spent a year, maybe a little bit over a year with Chet Black, I learned a lot from that man, like so much. And I'm grateful for every single one of the mentors, the men and the women that I've actually had in my life. John taught me this. He said, accountability is the greatest form of love that you can show another human being. Accountability is the greatest form of love that you can show another human being. This is from a leadership standpoint, really embracing that. You recognize, how many of you guys have kids? Okay. Do you hold them accountable? Yes or no? Yeah. Okay. Sarah, how many kids do you have? One, two? You have two. What are their ages? Like fifth? You can show me on it.
Um, 14 and 16 as of 2 days ago.
You are in the hunt, baby.
Yes.
For sure. Boys or girls?
Girls, both.
Oh shit. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. I got a 16-year-old girl that just is amazing.
Amazing.
She is my greatest teacher. Let me just say that. Like Sophia is my greatest teacher, right? We hold our kids accountable, right, guys? Why? Because we love them. And eventually, if all of you, and if you didn't love them, you wouldn't care what they did. Correct, guys? But see, like Nazar, Justin, you love your son, right? I guarantee you hold him accountable because you want what's best for him because you love him. And eventually, all of you, and I look at Doug and Joan, and look, they love their team. And because they care about and they love their team, they're going to hold them accountable at that point. You know what I mean? And so if you can change the way that you look at things, the things you look at change, which is a lesson I didn't put on here, but did I put it on here? I did not. I learned that from Wayne Dyer, actually. If you can change the way that you look at things, the things you look at change. If you can change, Jamie, the way you look at accountability, right? And get your team to understand that as well, too, because all of you, if you're looking to grow, if you're looking to actually cross over, which I hope you are, to cross over that 7-figure hump, because you deserve it. Does that make sense? Like if you're going to be engaged in the game of real estate, then you're going to actually sacrifice and make the sacrifices in your life. You better be going for 7 figures. For most of you guys, that's 60 or 70 transactions. Maybe for some of you, it's even less based upon your price point. And why not play the game for that level? That means eventually you're going to need to lead people. And if you're going to lead people, they need to understand you're going to hold them accountable. And if they understand that accountability in your world is a form of you showing that you care about them and that you love them, then it won't feel heavy-handed. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, right? So you really need to embrace and let your team, if you have one, understand this is why I do this. It's not because I want to micromanage you. It's not because I don't believe in you. It's because I do believe in you. I care about you and I want to have what's best for you. Here's number 5. Number 5. I learned this from Matthew Ferry. Okay. I learned this one from Matthew Ferry, who was one of my best friends, still is, right? Or we don't talk that much, but for, like in my 20s, I spent every weekend over at Matthew's house talking, bullshitting, listening to his music, etc. People are doing, here's number 5. People are doing the best they can in the moment with the tools and the skills that they have. People are doing the best they can in the moment with the tools and the skills that they have. Christine, no one's trying to screw up. People don't wake up in the morning, they go, let me see how much I can screw up today. How many of you guys wake up and that's your number one primary goal? No, nobody, right? We get up and we say, Chuck, I want to have the best day that I possibly can. And then life starts lifing and shit starts happening. And then you do the best that you can, right? And it doesn't always go the way that you want to. Now, when you look at this, how this applies, first of all, recognize for yourself. Hopefully, what it does is it gives you a little empathy for yourself so that you can have empathy for other people as well, too. By the way, empathy is a superpower of influence. When you are empathetic for other people's situation, not meaning that I'm sympathetic for them, meaning I feel sorry for them, meaning I'm empathetic for them, which means I actually do my best to understand the situation that they're in. You energetically align and can have influence on them. Does that make sense? But it starts with you having and practicing that, Alicia, on yourself first. And see, I'd like you to write down one little piece to number 5. All my suffering comes from my judgment of other people. People are doing the best they can in the moment with the skills and the tools that they have. And all my suffering comes from my judgment of them. Period. That when I heard that for the first time, that was a throat punch, right? I'm like, oh shit, I'm creating the resistance. Oh my gosh, the suffering is on me, not on them, right? I created this based upon my judgment. And so number 5 and number 6 go a little bit together. I got number 6 from Ron and Kathy Patulski, who were great coaches for Mike Ferry, went on to actually studied at Harvard and did a whole bunch of wonderful work there, right? Number 6 is this: listen first with the intent to understand, not to fix, solve, or judge. Listen first with the intent to understand, not to judge, not to fix, not to solve. Sarah, my daughter, has slammed me like a mofo on this one. Like, because I'm Coach Pipes. I solve problems for money. That's, that's my world. You know what I mean? And she's like, you don't understand me. You don't get me. Right. And so what I realized, Chuck, is there came a moment, Joan, where I just needed to sit back, and it was 1 a.m. We had this blow up. Oh my gosh. It was like massive. She was screaming at me, and it was just like, I'm go through human shit just like every single one of you do. You know what I mean? And I'm sitting there like, well, let me try and solve. She's like, you're not hearing me, right? And so we sat down downstairs. I go, fine. She's like, I'm going to mom's. I'm like, no, that's the worst thing you can do right now. We need to calm down. And we sat down, and for an hour and a half, you know what I did? I didn't try and solve. I just listened. I sought to understand first. And you know what happened? Her emotions went down. She felt heard, etc. Right? Like, and this isn't just like I'm giving you a interpersonal example, but in business it's the same way. Why do clients keep saying you the same shit and keep getting upset or because they don't feel like you're listening to them? Does that make sense? Okay. And if they don't feel like you're listening to them, if they don't feel heard, they'll either get off the phone with you and find someone who does, right? Or they will continue to get more and more upset, because human beings think if they get more upset and they talk louder and they talk more intensely, maybe you'll hear them. Seek to understand versus to judge and fix. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. Number 7. Okay. So I've got an amazing guy. His name's Pavan Argawal, right? That is, I call him my GBI for G3 coaching. He's my genius billionaire investor. He's the owner of Angel AI, and he's the owner of SunWest Mortgage Company, right? His net worth is well over $1 billion, right? Okay. And so he came to me and said, I want to be partnered with you in this business. And I brought him into the business. Because capital was nice to have in case we needed it, right? Like to be able to actually have additional capital to be able to invest if we needed to into the company, but more for his intellectual capital. Does that make sense, guys? More for the intellectual capital that he brought. And he said to me one time, all mistakes are made due to the energy you have when you make the mistake. All mistakes that you make are due to the energy that you have. Now, Nazar, you know me, man. I'm like, man, I'm naturally energetic all the time. Rah. He's like, no, not that energy. He goes, when you're making big decisions, you need to bring yourself into a calm and peaceful state, right? Where you are not doing the normal Bill Pipes thing. You are calm, right? Okay. And he said, take 2 to 3 minutes before making any type of big decision, do a little meditation, do some breath work, and then come at the decision at that point. Put yourself in a different energy, because new problems for you to solve the problem, guys, you can't approach the problem being the person that created the problem and get a solution. Does that make sense? You've got to change who it is that you're ultimately being. Okay. Number eight, B equals, this is probably, if there's one thing that I think my kids have gotten from me, is this: B equals P plus E. It is the most important equation. This is number 8, is the most important equation that is out on the planet, in my opinion. I see it show up with my kids and the decisions that they make. I see it show up with my clients, right? I watch it in G3. You know, I've got a great coaching client. His name is Billy Waters. I started working with Billy. Billy was a tennis pro and part-time real estate agent 2 years ago, right? He like did both. Okay, he's up in Lake Tahoe. The country club said, "Hey, Billy, this is your last year." We started working together. Billy was making about $200,000, $185,000 to $200,000 a year. He was our very first coaching client, Nazar, ever. He was my very, like with not ever, but with G3, right? As we started the company. Billy's on the second year. We just hit the second year of working together, right? He's right now at $510,000 closed and pending, Chuck. It is at Chuck sees him in the morning. It is so inspiring, man. I can't tell you, like, I'm just like so happy, Doug. I'm just like, oh my gosh, it could. But you know what he does? He shows up every morning on the huddles. He's on every single campfire. He's executing and surrendered to the process, right? See, B equals P plus E. Billy is a perfect example. Your behaviors, B, are equal to P, the people you're around, plus E, the environment that you put yourself inside of. Your behaviors, what you choose to do or not do, are a function of who you choose to be around and what environment you choose to actually be part of. Now, Billy's done the work. Make sense, guys? But he's part of an environment. He's there all the time. He's in the ecosystem. He's like, Coach, I talked to 2 or 3 other Chuck, have you and Billy ever connected?
Just at the conferences. He's a fantastic dude.
He's a
And he is so authentic. I love
Authentic,
that guy.
giving, loving, amazing, right? But see, why has he succeeded where others haven't? Because he's plugged into the environment. Does that make sense?
He's
And
doing
because
the work.
and he's doing the work. But why is he doing the work? He's doing the work. Well, I'm holding him accountable. He's got a big why that he's working on. But the people that he's talking to and the environment that he's part of demands greatness and excellence from him. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, you know, like I love my daughter. She's amazing, Sarah. About a year ago, she was hanging around with the wrong group. She stopped going to school. She started skipping. Right now, she's responsible ultimately at 15 years old. When, as you know, like she's an old enough adult to know old enough to know what's right and what's wrong, even though her brain hasn't fully developed. But here's what's an interesting thing that happened, and Chuck has heard this story. The 2 girls she was skipping school with both left. Okay, they left. One moved back to Florida, the other one moved back to Chicago. She made the volleyball team. She started playing with the girls, the volleyball team, a new group, new people, right? New environment. Guess what happened? Her behavior shifted and changed based upon the people that she was around and the environment you're part of. You want to prospect? Hang out with prospectors. You want to be great salespeople? Hang out with amazing salespeople, right? You want to be in shape? Start associating with people who are in incredible shape, right? You go to eat that donut while you're sitting at the table with them. They're going to go, what the hell are you doing, right? Okay. Right? You want to be a great father or a great mother, find other great fathers and mothers and spend more time with them, right? The people and environment will dictate the behaviors. Here's number 9. Your key to success always comes down to preparation. The key to success is preparation. Preparation the night before for your day, preparation for a listing presentation, preparation, before you prospect, preparation in terms of your leads that you're going to, like the preparation the work you do prior to. I love what Sun Tzu says. He wasn't one of my mentors, right? Because he was dead a long time ago. But Sun Tzu said, every battle is won before it's fought. Every battle is won before it's fought. The preparation, John, that goes into the action or the activities that you're about to take is going to determine and dictate a large amount of success that's going to take place. What is your pregame ritual for your day? What is your AMPR? What is your PMBR, your evening business ritual to prep you out for the next day? What do you do before a listing presentation, or are you just trying to get over there in enough time and you're all disheveled, etc.? What do you do before you go show property? What is your preparation? Do you go into the houses prior to, or is the first time that you see the house the time that you're walking them through, right? All of that will dictate a higher level of success for you, all right? And number 10 is this. I learned this from one of my great coaches, a woman by the name of Teresa Jabor. In the absence of communication, stories get created and upsets occur. In the absence of communication, stories get created and upsets occur. Authentic communication solves everything. If you look at most of the upsets that occur in your life, it's because there was a break in communication. You made shit up, right? That was not true in many cases. And then you started living your life as if that was true in that relationship. Communication solves everything. So you guys, I have got to jam. I've got a car waiting downstairs. I'm going to hop in it, get over to the other hotel. I'm going to go speak. I hope you enjoyed this. I truly, authentically, from the bottom of my heart, loved sharing this with you here today, to be able to take 30 years, and the list could go on and on and on and on, right? But I really, really hope you do something with this. Take it, look at it, review it, take action on it, right? Don't let it just be a source of inspiration for you today. Let it be a source of action for you as you move forward. So, okay. Hey, Five, I love you guys. I can't wait to see you guys in May, maybe. And most importantly, I hope you have a blessed week, and I'll see you guys on our next masterclass. Take care. Bye-bye, guys.